Suns lose 2 in a row. This time, the Suns tormentors are the Detroit Pistons, who are now 12-17 on the season. And final score, 133. The Suns measly 125. There's a lot to talk about in this game, and I have a lot to say about this game, where the Suns are going, and what they just need to generally improve. We'll be right back. The deed has been done. If this is your first time around these parts, you may have not noticed I got this sign back here. If you've been with us before throughout this season, you've also noticed this sign before that I've always had behind me indicating Suns meltdowns. And it changed a lot during that 2023-2024 general season that we had last year. And so far, the Suns looked good coming into this year's 2024-2025 season. And honestly, I was really hesitant in changing that. I feel like there could have been different milestones where I could have changed it, but this game is the straw that breaks the camel's back, in my opinion. Okay? So, the meltdown, it has been 0 days since the Suns last had a meltdown. Let's just clear this up first. The Detroit Pistons did not bankrupt the Suns, okay? This isn't season ending. There's still many opportunities, and the Suns very much need to improve in several categories. There's so many problems on this team that they need to get better in if they want to be able to compete towards the end of the season. But this game, I look at it as it was just, one too many in a series of long building problems that the Suns have had in the last couple of games. If you've been a long time listener, you've been hearing me complaining about these same problems every time, and eventually it has to reach a point. And I believe that's where it hit tonight, as one of the first big failures of tonight was that first quarter. If you did not watch the game, or if you did, you had the displeasure to either hear or watch this first quarter go down, as the Suns allowed the Detroit Pistons to an early 40-point quarter. 40-point quarters don't happen every day. All right, I know some of us are still along with the stigma that the Detroit Pistons are a bad team, and to some extent they are, but you also have to recognize that while the Detroit Pistons were really good tonight, they didn't show that much weakness tonight that the Suns could exploit. The Detroit Pistons are a good team now, okay? And if you don't know that now, give them respect now, okay? I simply thought the Suns were a better team a while ago when I predicted that we'd win this game, but times have clearly changed, as this team has clearly failed to reach the mark, just the standard, over and over again. So Detroit Pistons, good team now, all right? We could all settle on that. If this game is an embarrassment to you, I'm going to just put that away right quick, because the Boston Celtics also allowed the Detroit Pistons to have 120 points. Sure, they didn't allow 130, but, that just goes to the testament that the Pistons are really no pushovers this season compared to last season. So that it's not as much of an embarrassment. But still, this is still a bad loss by the Suns, as 41 points just to the Pistons in that first quarter was embarrassing. Embarrassing the way the Suns showed up in that first. All right. Don't believe me? We had 6 turnovers to start this game. There's the continuing issue that the Suns have had in recent games. It was a big issue that I emphasized against the Indiana Pacers game, all those turnovers that just allowed the Pacers to keep blasting the Suns back. And this game was no different, as 6 turnovers to start the first quarter, which in just the first quarter is insane style. And the Suns ended the night with 19 turnovers. Still bad. It got slightly better over the course of the game, because I bet Coach Bud had to scream it into the guys' ears. And quite simply, the Pistons have a new style of basketball that they have been exceeding at, and pretty much is the basis and fundamental for any team rebuilding. If you want to build, you need young, competitive, aggressive, and you just need that hustle to eke out wins against this, kind of like the Goliaths against the Davids in the sports world. This is an upset in many different ways, and that first quarter was really bad. The Suns looked pathetic. The game just had started, and KD looked like he was already giving up. KD, he tried his best during that. He definitely looked pissed. He looked freaking mad. And I don't blame him. I could be reading that wrong, but I don't blame him being mad. He should be mad in that first quarter because how awfully the Suns were playing and just how just aggressive the Pistons were. Let me just emphasize this. It was bad. All right. Now, credit to the Suns here. They did get a little better. They definitely came out that second quarter a lot more defensive, but that still doesn't excuse that freaking disastrous first quarter. So that's about it. The Suns did get better as the game went on, but eventually the Suns hit another roadblock. And this is the second point to why I believe tonight is a meltdown, is the third quarter. Suns traditionally, especially in these last couple of games, I've neglected to mention it, but the Suns have been having bad third quarters as of late. It's also started to cause some dread within the Suns community of the third quarter. They're kind of like the new fourth quarter that the Suns had last year. And I think that is simply because the Suns are refusing to learn from their mistakes. I've been saying for a while now, and I think I've been picking at this point for a little bit over these last couple of Suns games, is that there's just something fundamentally wrong on this Suns team. This roster is fine, but somehow we're still losing with Book, Beal, and KD. Sometimes all three of them together, sometimes just two of those three, right? This shouldn't be happening. This has to be something fundamentally wrong with the Phoenix Suns. And I think recently a lot of Suns fans have maybe found that out, as I recently came across a post going over the plus and minuses of each lineup that we've had. And shockingly, the starting lineup, the one starting lineup where the Suns have basically sacrificed everything for this last couple of years, this all-in mentality that we've been having to bring KD to Phoenix, to have Bill in Phoenix, just to form this one starting lineup with now Tyus. That is like one of our worst lineups. All right. If you literally look at the numbers, the net rating on that starting lineup is pretty bad. Now, that rating starts to change when you start adding more bench players. For example, this is starting to get into a hot topic where Beal might have to switch to the bench. I mean, you're not going to push KD to the bench. You're not going to push Book to the bench. So Beal is kind of like the only one that would fit this scenario, and he could thrive in it. All right. We've seen a lot of stats and a lot of cases where the Suns have been able to hold their own with Beal being a leader on the bench, with the bench, I should say. But he has never started the game on the bench, whether that be because of ego or because Coach Bud is just too nice to our starters. It's costing us, especially at the beginning of the first quarter, that literally sets the stage for the whole game, and the third quarter where the Suns have been struggling recently. Notice how both of those quarters start with the starting lineup. And if our starting lineup sucks, then we have a bad start to both of those quarters. It's a concerning factor that as we go on is going to need to change. Whether that change involves a Jimmy Butler trade or if Beal just needs to go to the bench, the Suns need to change that. This is the fundamental change that I'm talking about here. The Suns need a change at that starting lineup because it's statistically hurting us every time that we start that lineup. It's just not good in concept on paper and on the court. Okay. And whether or not the Suns make that change, I'm just a Suns fan. All right. I literally have no power in what the Suns front office or coach will do. But I'm just saying here that this is literally a problem on the Suns. And if they continue to run this lineup, it's going to have dire effects. Now, when I say change, I don't mean like trading Beal, like getting him off this team. I still like Beal. I think he's putting up a great season on this team, right? He's been great defensively. He hasn't been like shut down, lockdown, DPOY candidate, but he's average and he does a good enough job defending. I would love to see him a little more aggressive on offense, and I think he could find that while being on the bench. So I like Beal on this team. It's just I don't think he fits with the starting lineup, and we've had this discussion for a while now, and it's got even worse now that Tyus is here. So we have these 3-guard lineup. It's just not working anymore, defensively or offensively. It's a big problem. So the Suns don't need to go make a trade just to have this change that I'm saying. Literally, if we're getting philosophical here, every day is an opportunity for change. I guess you could say. Right? Every day you have an opportunity to go and change something about yourself for the better or for the worse. Either way, you have that choice. And the Suns, you don't have to go out and make a blockbuster trade, is essentially what I'm saying here. I mean, the stats are already there. Like, we've played enough time where we're a good chunk into the season enough where the Suns can take a look at the stats and decide if they want to make an internal change. But as of right now, the answer on the wall is that it's simply not working. Something needs to change, and it's that starting lineup. Okay? Whether it's waiving his no trade clause or it's Beal accepting to go to the bench, either way, that is what the Suns need to do. And that starting lineup basically continues to hurt the Suns, as that first quarter I already mentioned, disastrous, and our starting lineup's pretty bad. So there you have it. We have had a bad first quarter, a lot of bad first quarters recently, and this could explain why the third quarter issue is such a problem for the Suns. And this game, as this game has went on into the later second half, the Suns still just couldn't improve. If we're taking a look back at this game, the Suns just simply could not get a stop on the Pistons. The Pistons definitely looked a little more tired in the second half, but it was just never a thing that the Suns fully took advantage of and exploited, as in any chance they had to get on the run or start anything to bring this Suns team back into the game, it was always thwarted by either a bad shot or just another turnover, frankly. So that prevented the Suns from ever getting back in this game. It was always stuck at like a 5-point lead for Detroit. It was finally broke in that fourth quarter, but not for long. And that fourth quarter, that was quite messy. The Suns technically won that fourth quarter by 1 point, but that fourth quarter by itself, the refs weren't helping. All right, let's just get that out of the way. Intentional or unintentionally, accidentally, that's a conversation for another day. But they literally helped the Pistons in sealing this game with a bunch of wild calls to end that quarter. That was disastrous. That's just something that just also didn't help the Suns, is that the refs were also creating some bogus calls. But I mean, the refs weren't completely the problem tonight, but the Suns still are the problem themselves, as just fundamentally the way this team's built is awful. And this could relate into another point, into why this team seems so cursed with injuries, is because we're so short. In today's basketball, playing this aggressive style of defense is really hard for guys like Grayson Allen or even Tyus Jones, who are below 6'6", who fall into these kind of dark areas where they're like too short to really play adequate defense. And that translates to more fouls and injuries, as unfortunately tonight, Grayson Allen was hit in the back of the head while trying to box out Simon Fortunato. I believe I said that name right. He was trying to box him out and he got hit in the back of the head, and he had to go to the locker room, which looked really bad. So I believe they had an early diagnosis and called it a concussion. So that is really bad. And then there's also another part of this game where Bradley Beal went up for a fast break dunk and he hit the floor really hard. He did get the basket because Cade challenged him during that, but Beal had a hard fall. And, you know, that just goes back to the way this team is built. I mean, we have like 5 players that are under, I would say, of being too short, 6'6" and like under that kind of zone. And it's really hurting us. It really starts making you wonder why we went into this direction of getting these guys. And well, the answer to that is because they're sharp shooters. They can hit threes. Grayson Allen was able to hit a lot of threes. Tyus Jones is money from the three this season, but they just continue to not consistently knock down those threes to justify it. But we just continue to not be able to play defense. And Grayson Allen is like the first guy off of our bench. He's the 6th man, and Tyus Jones is a part of our starting lineup. So it gets really bad when you get to those bench guys. And it's just really questioning the way this Suns team is built. And we're definitely going to need some trades in that department just to get bigger. And it's getting quite tiring. So that is why the Suns are suffering right now. It's a meltdown, I would say. All right, that's completely in my opinion. The Suns are in dire need of change. And whether or not they make those changes is up to the Suns office themselves. But if they don't, the Suns are a guaranteed elimination or play in. That's just the way it is. As tonight, the Phoenix Suns fall even closer to being 500 and are 14-13. So that puts the Suns right in the elimination category. We are the 11th seed and would miss the play-ins. It is dire right now, people. The Suns need change, and they need it now more than ever. Because let me remind you, our next game is in Denver. The next game is on Christmas. Merry Christmas, guys. We're almost there. I hope you're having a happy holidays because the Suns are going to ruin it, potentially, as we face Denver and then Dallas and then Golden State and then Memphis and then Indiana. It doesn't get any easier from here. And the way I'm talking about the Suns are going to be suffering for the rest of this December and early into January. So that's pretty much it for tonight. The Suns, they just got out hustled. That's also another reason that the Suns lost this game, despite KD's amazing 43-point game. It just still isn't enough. I mean, does any of these numbers really matter? I usually take time to read these stat sheets during every video, but does it really matter if the Suns, at the end of the day, still lose? It's amazing. KD dropped his 43, but it just doesn't bode well for what direction they're heading in. So KD 43, Beal had a lot more aggressive game, and I definitely like to see more of that from him. 26 for Beal. Tyus Jones for a long time was perfect from the line. He missed one shot. 19 answered his bad game from Indiana. Very much love seeing that. Royce O'Neal had an all right game, 11 points. Yusuf Nurkic, honestly, just looked awful. Yeah, I'll admit that. As a Nurkic fan, yeah, he had an awful game. And then not much production from our bench. Although I will say Ryan Dunn was a breath of fresh air on this team. Basically, he played some incredible defense during that third quarter against Cade Cunningham. And there's really nothing else notable about the Suns. I've said it all already. That is the Suns situation. It's a dark situation to be in, especially when we're supposed to be in our championship. And what the Suns would say, if you listen to our promotion material, the golden age of the Phoenix Suns. You know, Suns up. Well, so far, the season hasn't lived up to it. Well, the first half of the season was pretty good. The rest of it hasn't. So, Suns lose 2 in a row. Don't let this Suns talk all just demean you or just like get you down. At the end of the day, it's just some millionaires playing basketball, you know? It sucks, but whatever. We move on and we live another day. And as I said earlier, every day is a chance for opportunity. So please enjoy your day. We'll be back here Monday, 23rd of December, once we go into the Mile High City against Denver before our Christmas Day game. All right? Take care, y'all. I don't know why I put a y'all in there, but I will. All right? Enjoy yourselves. See ya.